Welcome to Mine Explorers, episode 21. And speaking of 21, that is the age of our lovely guest today, Amanda Burgess.
It's not.
Amanda is the claim queen. And today, our episode is all about claims.
The Claim Queen.
Yes.
That's a new title.
She has many years of experience in her 21 years of age.
Yes. 21 plus.
We were all 21 once,
Yeah.
just for a minute.
Yeah. Maybe for like 5 years or something.
Right?
Yeah.
I'd rather be 31 than 21, honestly. If I could
Same.
go back to 31, that would be ideal.
Same.
You know, you actually know some things, but you're still young enough to enjoy it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. 21, I thought I knew all the things.
Right.
I knew none of the things.
31, you actually know enough.
Yeah. Enough.
And you've been kicked around a few times and beat up a little bit.
Yeah.
So you're a little more humble.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, you probably spent a little bit of time recovering from injuries and illnesses and self-inflicted things.
They say you're not really an adult until you're like 24. I think probably 31.
Probably.
You've gotten over that like, yay, I'm 30 hill, and 31, you're probably actually an adult.
That's fair. I'll take that.
Yeah.
So, today's episode is all about
Yes.
claims.
Yes.
Because we have the claim queen on.
Okay.
And you've been in the trenches on all sorts of land rights issues. From
Yes.
attending conferences with the Association of Landmen to duking it out on the Hill with the BLM to local state offices, counties, mining associations, even congressmen. You've kind of been doing mineral rights stuff all across the board.
Yeah. 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 There's definitely conversations that have been had across the board about mining claims, BLM policies, regulations, implications of new regulation, or lately there's been a lot of research into case law. It's, just all across the board.
So, 3 mining claim myths you would love to dispel publicly. Go.
Wow. On the spot. Okay. So recently I learned that deadlines sometimes matter, and I think we should circle back to that one.
Okay.
That's one. Number 2, I feel like there is this feeling that placer claims are much easier than lode claims.
Oh, yes.
I'd say that's false. I actually think lode claims are a lot easier.
Placer claims the intricacies far outweigh loads, and the
Yes.
benefits, unless you have something that's specifically placer, don't
Yes.
bother. Like, a lot of people think, oh, I'll cover this huge area with placers, it's adequate part, it's
So easy.
we'll just throw them down. And then at the end of the day, like, when it comes to amendments, 2 out of 3 have been placer.
Yes, historically, any amendment that Burgex has had to deal with, 2 out of 3 have been placer claims. I think by now I might know everything about placer claims, but I wouldn't put it past the BLM to surprise me still.
You know a lot. So,
I know a lot.
myth number 1, the deadlines matter sometimes.
Sometimes.
We're going to loop back because that sounds intriguing. 2, placer claims are definitely more complex than load claims.
Yes, definitely.
3,
Can we stick with 2? I'm having a hard time coming up with a third.
oh, I can throw out like 5.
Okay, give me your
But
number one.
you're the guest. I want to hear what you have to say.
Well, give me your number 1. I'll let you know how it ranks.
My number 1 is there's not one claim type that covers everything. I think people think I own the mining claim, I own all the mineral rights.
Oh,
And you don't.
You mean if they like purchase a mining claim?
Yeah, like I own all the mineral rights. Or just stake it. Because they might think like Canadians or Australians or people in the UK who hire a firm to stake mining claims, they're like, oh, we own all the mineral rights. Because in a lot of countries, a mining tenement, a mining lease, a mining whatever they want to call it, gives you rights to all the minerals. And here in the United States, there's no specific type of mineral right that covers everything unless you have a patented mining claim.
Right. Yeah.
And those don't exist anymore.
Okay.
You can't create one. You can buy existing ones.
Right.
So that would be my number one.
Okay.
It's a myth that a mining claim gives you a right to all the minerals, and it doesn't.
So I'd put that at my number 3.
You hoser.
I know.
You're still my number 1 for your number 3.
Yeah. Yep.
So, looping back to your first one. The deadlines. Let's start with when the deadlines really matter.
Okay. Pay your maintenance fees by September 1 or else.
That's a huge one.
That's a huge one.
Yeah.
And that particular one matters.
Because that's one, like, all the other minutia, you can argue at a court of law with attorneys. And if you have a lot of money, you can twist it however you need to get through.
Yeah.
The September 1st deadline, unless you want to go sue the Department of Interior, the September 1st deadline is law. Like, you miss that deadline. It doesn't matter if you're Barrick, Rio Tinto, BHP, Kinross. You renew your claim September 2nd, unless there's like a holiday or whatever, they're done.
Right.
It doesn't matter how many lobbyists you have. It doesn't matter how many attorneys you have on retainer. That's a real hard, fast deadline.
Yes. And I would argue that the bigger you are, the more likely the BLM is just going to say, you should know better. But even for the small guys, I know the BLM will say, like, you call September 5, the BLM's going to say, I'm sorry, I forgot, doesn't cut it. Only in the very rare circumstances will.
Oh, it's extreme. Like, your bank had a fatal flaw in their transfer system or something where the wire didn't go through or the check got bounced accidentally.
But even then, there's hoops to jump through. You got to get your bank to write a letter. I like the land law examiners. I really do. At the end of the day, they're all people doing a job the best they can, and they are not working under the best of conditions right now. Let's say they apply the standards as equally as they possibly can.
Okay.
And that's not usually in a claimant's favor.
Right.
If you're talking about maintenance fee deadlines.
Right, because that's a hard deadline.
That's a hard deadline. That's kind of an easy one for them. They get a lot of situations where they have to kind of okay, let me look at this again. We've run through a few of those recently, but with maintenance fee deadlines, that's an easy one for them. Sorry about ya. My hands are tied. Claims closed.
So, you were going to talk about when the deadlines are a little bit looser.
Yeah.
Because the deadlines sometimes matter. So, let's touch on that briefly, then we'll summarize and move on.
Yeah. Okay. So, when the deadlines are a little bit looser is more at the county level, which is all state regulation, right? The state sets the regulation for all of the counties. And unless the state specifically says, meet this deadline for recording your initial notice, recording your notice of intent to hold, anything like that, unless there's meet this deadline or else within the regulation, there is precedent that shows not meeting the deadline is not necessarily a forfeiture. However, I would argue that it's still very undesirable because there are a lot of people out there.
It leaves an open space for someone to come in and litigate conversely.
Right, exactly. And someone I spoke with recently put it very well when they said, this is the United States after all, you can litigate anything.
That's true.
And that is true. And at the end of the day, that will probably come down to who has more money.
Right.
Which is unfortunate, but that's what it is.
So if it was tried in a BLM court and they hate everyone equally, then it would be very fair. But it's not. It's tried with judges.
Judges in civil court, district courts.
Who
are not mining judges.
99.8% of the judges sitting on benches in the United States today have not tried a mining case.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, who knows which way that will go. What we know about judges is they don't like to set precedent.
They don't.
So where precedent's been set already, there's a good case for county deadlines unless there's an or else attached to it. It probably isn't fatal, but like you said, it opens the door. It opens the door. Still, please meet your deadlines. Just please meet your deadlines. It makes everything easier.
Yeah, meet your deadlines. And they're easy.
They're
Just
easy.
do it. Stake your claim. File it within 30 to 90 days, depending on the state you're in. File with the BLM within 90 days. We can sort out or help you sort out amendments, flaws in the paperwork, things like that.
Right.
Meet your deadlines.
Meet your deadlines.
So, to recap, and we got real technical, and I think we lost 80% of our viewers, maybe more, in the legal minutia. Amanda is very detail-oriented, which makes her phenomenal at her job. But sometimes she needs a translator, and that's where I come in.
Yeah, that's true.
So, big 3 myths. 1, the deadlines matter. And in some cases they don't, but always they do when it comes to maintenance fees. Correct. 2, placer claims are not superior to loads. In fact, they have so many problems in so many ways.
Not that they're not superior, they're just not easy.
Not easy.
Not easy.
Right, there's that detail again. She's
Yes.
always got it.
I
She's pulling it on me.
just to be clear. Yeah,
It's true.
Sorry.
They're superior if you have a placer material. Placer gold and an alluvial. You have lithium in brines. You have a diatomaceous earth deposit that's just sitting in Aeolian windblown dunes. There's times when placer is very superior, but it's definitely not more simple. And I think that's a very common misconception, is that, hey, I'm just going to pop in, throw down an associated placer claim. Easy, I put one post in one corner, we're done. And there's so many issues that come with that down the road.
Right.
If you're dealing with somebody who wants to come in and beat you up in
Right.
court.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Or you want to deal with a lot of amendments.
Right.
So, the third was mine. The big one, the third big one,
Right.
that was the one I came up with, was not just because you buy a mining claim or a package of mining claims doesn't mean you own all the mineral rights.
Right.
Because, and I didn't really dig into it, but because there's placer claims, lode claims, then there's all the leasable minerals and all the saleable minerals. So just because you bought a section of lode claims for, let's say, lithium clays,
Sure.
doesn't mean you have any rights to lithium brines that you discover. And it
Right.
definitely doesn't give you any rights to any coal or oil and gas. Or if you're looking for lithium brines and you find potash, you don't have the rights to the potash. So let's talk about crazy mining claim stories you've come across.
Oh boy. In general or just
Mistakes that you've had to fix.
mistakes I've had to fix. I mean, since we've touched on deadlines, let's talk about that. You know, every year still, come late September, mid-September, early October, we get a call from someone who forgot to pay their maintenance fees. And like we said, that's a deadline that can't be fixed. So we have to hurry and come up with a plan to restake the claims. And sometimes that gets to be a little bit tricky because there can be changes in land status. So if the claims you had some kind of grandfathered rights or were maybe staked before a survey or
In an area that was since withdrawn.
or in an area that was since withdrawn, like there's a number of things that could happen. You have to start from square one, and all of the land where you had mineral rights may not be available for mineral rights anymore. Or you have to do things differently than you did them before, or you have to work around other people's claims. Maybe other people threw down claims since then, and you have to work around those now. That happens every year.
So you make it sound like it's just a complex administrative nightmare, but in practical terms, you can miss the September 1st deadline and lose your entire project.
Yeah, it's possible.
Right. So not just like administrative messes you have to deal with. Like
yeah.
you lose your whole project. Like we had a client once who came to us on September 3rd and they had dropped accidentally, just forgot to file like most of their project that was actively mining.
Right.
We're talking thousands of claims.
Yes.
And so we had to deploy
Immediately.
middle of the night, hire all of our competitors to come help.
Yes.
To restake using.
Yes.
We didn't even have time to draft new paperwork. We had to reuse a bunch of old paperwork.
Right.
Which came with a bunch of errors and amendments and things that we've had to since fix. And it's cost, at the end of the day, it's going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars for that mistake. If not millions.
Right. Because we didn't even have time to do a recheck of anything. So in that situation, we just used the old paperwork and went off of that and put posts in the ground just as fast as our legs could carry us. Not my legs, because I'm the claim queen and I sit in my office on my...
You were in Italy when this happened. You weren't even in the country.
I know, I wasn't even there. If I could have been, I would have been.
Right.
But that was the situation. We had to go out there and do everything as quickly as possible to make sure that no nuisance claim staker had time to get wind of this and put their own claims in bad faith, mind you. And come to find out later, a lot of this old paperwork that we were using was not well written.
I mean, almost none of it is, because a lot of these are like a partnership of guys and they do it based, this is all pre-GPS.
Right.
So they're like, this claim corner ties to Farmer Joe's ranch 7 miles away and his front doorstep, and that's since been torn down.
Right.
And so like reusing a lot of that comes with tons of problems.
So we're just using our best guess based on the maps that we had and the paperwork that we had, and just hoping it stands. But yeah, it's very costly because now we're restaking more than once.
Right.
That's a lot.
So this is one example of a project where we had to restake basically overnight. Hundreds of claims, if not more than 1,000, at an active mine site.
Right.
And spend the last several plus years fixing all of the ancillary issues.
Right.
Related to that.
Yep.
So, and that'll be ongoing for probably another few years. Or more. Not to mention, like, when all those were dropped, there were numerous agreements with different landowners and landholders and claim owners that all those contracts stipulated that this mining company keep all these claims in good faith.
Right.
And maintain them. And then they're not maintained, their new claims.
Yeah.
So all the ownership's messed up, the chain of title's messed up, the agreements are default.
Yeah. I mean, and that becomes a nightmare too, because you have to go back to your agreements. And a lot of times royalties run with the land and not with the claim itself, because otherwise, why wouldn't you just drop the claim and restake it, right?
Right. I mean, they run with the land, but the claim is what gives you title to the land.
Right.
So once the claim's dropped, you don't technically have any legal title to any of it.
Yeah, you kind of,
But if it's dropped on the part of the party who's leasing it, or has the royalty issuer, then there's all sorts of issues. But I mean, the bottom line with this case is we were able to save the day and come in, but it's been a long process.
It's been long.
But they could have saved, let's say at the end of the day, it's going to cost them $1 million.
Right.
Which is entirely reasonable.
Sure.
Had they had you watching their claims, how much would it have cost them?
A lot less.
Just throw out a ballpark. I mean, $10,000?
Well, just for me to do the work?
Yeah.
Yeah, over time, less than $10,000 since.
For you to
Just
for you to keep it all
do the work.
filed, babysat through the process.
Yeah.
Checked out, all that. And if we were doing all the audits and everything actively as well, maybe even less, because a lot of those costs would get rolled into doing the rest of it.
Right.
But you're looking at $1 million versus, say, 10,000.
Right.
Which is probably a high estimate, but it gives you a ballpark.
Sure.
And this is not an isolated case.
No.
I think you, like you said, you get that call every September.
Right.
So you've been working with Burgex for 9 years.
Right.
So you've gotten at least 9 of those calls.
Right.
But realistically, probably more like 15.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes we're able to resolve it. Like sometimes it is one of those weird things. And we're like, okay, let's check in on this. Let's see what happened.
So you've been able to do that twice, maybe?
Yeah.
Out of the 15?
Yeah, probably.
The other 13 times they've had to spend way more money.
Right. And for some of these projects, it's been pretty scrappy too. Like now all of a sudden they have to pull together this extra cash.
Right.
So that they can restake.
And instead of putting that money into exploration or development, now they're putting it into fixing a mistake.
Right.
It's a super simple mistake. They just forgot to file the maintenance payment.
Right. Right. And I don't know what's going on the other side. I hate to think it's just as simple as someone forgot, or it just gets backburnered, but
almost all the cases I've heard about and dug into directly has been I forgot.
I forgot.
It's not because they don't care, it's because they're busy.
Right, exactly.
And the BLM doesn't send out reminders, we do.
Right.
But if they're not on our radar and they're not in our system and they haven't signed up to be, then we're not monitoring all of it.
Get on our mailing list. We'll send you a reminder.
If you're on our mailing list, we'll send you a reminder.
Yeah.
And we'll send you a reminder probably like July, August, September, maybe more than once in August. But if you're in our Claim Guard program, you don't even need a reminder. It's just done.
Yeah.
It's taken care of for you.
Yeah. This year we started our reminders early because we know about the staffing issues in the BLM. And mostly, like, look, we love our clients. So whether you use ClaimGuard or not, please pay on time. Like, we don't want to get that call September 15th. That hurts every time. Like,
especially if it's work we've done.
Right,
If
exactly.
we staked the claims and we put all the work in, and like, let's face it, our claim staking margins aren't great. So it's not like we're just making a ton of money and love to do the work over and over again.
No.
Like, we do claim staking as a lead in to do other services. Like, let's
Right.
help you advance a real project.
Right.
So a lot of the times we do the claim staking even at margin or potentially even at a loss. So when you accidentally drop that and it needs to be redone, it's super painful for you and it's super painful for us.
Right.
So just do the friggin' ClaimGuard program. I mean, we've priced it in a way that's super attractive and also not high margin for us. It's something that literally we do almost as a service.
Right. Yep, exactly. I mean, and like you were talking about with the reminders too, like, honestly, just be on our mailing list. The reminders are there so that you don't forget, but also ClaimGuard, I'll handle it. I'll do it.
Right.
It's fine. I got it. I got you.
And it's not just Amanda either. She's got a team behind her who takes care of this stuff, which is important.
I do. That is important. Absolutely. And it's not just your BLM maintenance fee that we handle. It's the county filing also.
Yep.
Which is also important.
What's a weird thing you've learned recently about mining claims?
Mining claims are supposed to be fairly rectangular or at least parallel in shape, right? Mm-hmm. Unless they're bounded by another claim, then they can almost be any shape necessary.
Really?
Really?
Any shape?
Just about.
Huh.
We're actually drafting triangle claims right now because they are bounded by other claims.
Triangle claims. So you're filling the gap that's left.
We're filling the gap because they are bounded by...
So if there's a triangle claim in a lot, let's say, and the other half of the lot's available, then you would draft another triangle.
Correct.
But could you draft a triangle claim if there's not
like
a
freestanding? No.
Okay. Well, then how did they happen in the first place?
That's probably a story for another day.
Interesting. But it's possible to have claims that are not a rectangle or a parallelogram.
Correct. If it's necessitated by being bound by another claim.
This sounds very chicken and egg.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It is. It is a chicken and egg story, certainly, but this is where we landed and this is where we are.
So mining claims are very Wild West still.
Yes, they are.
There's a lot of like timing, who put a post down first and who staked this and who staked that, and down to like minutes, days, seconds potentially. And then there's all the minutia in the paperwork and the filing timings and everything else. Like, it is probably exponentially more complex than it is in some other parts of the world.
Oh, certainly.
Because, I mean, people talk about complexity like, I'm in the DRC and I want a mineral tenement. I just got to be friends with the general. And I get it.
Yeah, I would say at the initial staking or location of a claim phase, it is wildly more complex than a lot of other locations. However, I think in a lot of other countries where you're dealing with First Nations and ministries of mines and agencies like that, it can be equally, if not more, complex in later exploration stages.
That makes sense. As Barrick just found out recently in Africa, where Mali just took back their mine and said, we're going to run this, it's state controlled. And everyone knows they're going to drive it into the ground in like 2 years and then beg Barrick to come back. This is a story that's been told since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
And it's just, you're right. So maybe getting the mineral rights initially was simple, clear cut, easy.
Sure.
But then later on, now they're paying the price with the complexity.
Right.
So if you come to the United States and you hire a competent firm and you secure everything well, you reduce an enormous amount of risk up front. Versus just acquiring a claim off eBay or from somebody who's not sophisticated in claims. Because there's a lot of well-intentioned prospectors out there who think they know how to stake a claim. And I was one. I thought I used to understand the system, but the more we dig in and the more research we do and the more we really get into it, the more we realize it's extremely complex. Like, I feel confident now with our team. We could target almost any mine in the United States and go and validate their mineral rights now. Because there's some chink in the armor that they've missed. And the older the mine and the longer operating, the more likely there's something that's wrong with it. And it's insane because it's like, there's no infallible way other than just to hire an extremely competent team and make sure they do everything to the book. Double check, triple check. Hand in your filings, walk them in every year, really do a good job.
I guess that's probably a good word of caution is know who you're hiring or know who you're purchasing from, because I agree with you. I think there are a lot of well-intentioned prospectors. And I'll admit a lot of the old school guys, they can do it just as well as we can. And they do it on a lot lower budget than we do.
In their neighborhood. Where they've been working. So I can go find a guy in Tonopah who can stake a claim in Nevada as well as we can. But if I pick him up and drop him in South Dakota, he's going to up the whole process.
Potentially, yeah. I think there's also a lot of prospectors out there who represent themselves as well-intentioned. And they do a good job of that.
I mean, I think that's another myth number 4. So we've got mining. There's not one type of mining claim that covers everything. We've got placer claims are not simpler than lode claims. We've got the deadlines matter until they don't. And then number 4
but they do.
Would be, there's the Mining Act of 1872. And there's the Code of Federal Regulations that dictates mining claims and everything. Then there's the state regulations, and they vary wildly.
They do.
I think a lot of people assume, they're going to be kind of similar or the same. No, there's some states you need 4 posts for a claim. There's some states you need 8. Or 9. Potentially 9 posts per claim. Some states, the claims can be anything. There's no regulation as to what they look like. Other states, they have to be 4 by 4 by 48-inch posts, which you can only carry 4 or 5 at a time. And then there's the paperwork and the maps and the filing deadlines. And there's a lot of complexity. So myth number 4 is, because you know how to stake a claim in one state does not mean you know how to stake it in another one. And even just sitting down and reading the regulations won't give you the level of knowledge you need. You almost have to go stake a dozen claims, a dozen different times, iterations of claim staking in every state to really understand what it takes. Because I've read the regulations in Nevada and their map scale in particular. if you read it very literally, it says the opposite of what they actually mean. There's no way you would know that unless you actually file a claim there, get the feedback, fix the claim, then try again, file it, fix it, trial and error. I mean, it's hard.
It is hard. It is hard. The trial and error is always painful. And I'm grateful that at this point we have a lot of it under our belt.
A lot.
We're pretty solid.
And that's what we offer. I think that's the biggest leverage. And it's funny because I'm really kind of promoting our claim staking, claim filing, and all that. And it really is not a profitable part of the business, but it's the key foundation.
Right.
If our clients come in, they let us handle that part and get it all done right, then they can focus on the exploration, the important part, which is the part we want to be involved in.
Right. Well, and it's the part that moves everything forward, like staking, claim location, paperwork. That's all administrative. What really moves your exploration forward is your drilling, your sampling, all of that. Like, we want to see people move things forward. We want to see clients win. I say this all the time. I want to see all of our clients win. I really, really do. And for better or for worse, it has to start with that ground location work and the paperwork.
Being right.
And filing your maintenance fees.
And the thing is like we've touched a lot and we've really beat it down.
Have we beat the dead horse enough?
So we've gotten into all the claims and staking. We've really dug into that. But the other part of it is that we haven't even touched on is the land status itself.
Oh gosh.
So just being able to read land status and figure out what is open, because a lot of people they pull up Land Matters, which is a great site, or they pull up 100K land map that shows this is BLM, this is Forest Service, and they just assume if it's BLM or Forest Service, it's open for location. Myth number 5.
There you go.
Just because it's BLM or Forest Service and not currently claimed does not mean it's open for mineral location.
Correct.
Also, conversely, just because it's private land doesn't mean it's not open for mineral location.
Right.
So just the land status side, we could do a whole episode on.
Sure. Let's not bore them today.
I'm working on making an AI bot that will help with land status research, but it'll only help.
It'll only help.
It'll collect the tools needed to have a professional like you look at it and make a determination.
That'll be a nice help.
How did you get into mining?
You.
Well, that's not a good story. You got a good story for us? What's your background?
We talked about this last time.
I don't think anyone's seen that one.
Ah, shucks. They don't want to. If they didn't watch it then, they don't want to hear it now. I've always been a detail person. I was going to be an English teacher. Failed. I was an auditor at a medical device lab. Did great.
It's actually really kind of you. You decided not to be a teacher, because had you become a teacher and then hated it later, it would just suck for your students.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a lot of teachers I had growing up who clearly didn't want to be teachers, but they stuck it out anyway.
Yeah.
So it's actually kind of you that you recognized early that you weren't cut out for it and got out.
It's maybe now. When I was in my early 20s, when I was 21 for those 5 years.
I don't think they let you sign up to be a teacher in your 40s.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, but you have to go get the schooling, right?
Depends on the state. Depends on the state.
Maybe I'm going to go teach 6th grade science.
Maybe you should.
Yeah, little career pivot. Yeah. Well, I'll see you guys later. I'm done with this. I'm going to go teach science.
Sounds good.
Yeah, we'd have a lot of fun. Field trips.
Or geology.
Rocks, yeah. I could teach geology, like basic level.
Social studies.
Nope.
No.
No, I have no social skills. I don't want to study them.
Those who can't do, teach.
Burned. Going after everybody today.
I guess.
Woof.
Sorry, babe.
It's the first episode I'm going to have to censor, too.
Win. I
Yeah.
don't know. Do I win? Do I get a prize?
No, it's been good. I mean, there's a lot of, like, this episode has been a little more passionate and heated because you've been in the trenches for the last 2 weeks, crawling through literally printed, bound law books to find case law for just obscure
This, that, and the other.
Again.
Bleep. Yes, for obscure. Boop. It's yes. There's been a lot of self-study these last couple weeks,
right?
And it's good. It's good. I love learning things I don't know. It only makes us better going forward. It's just the learning process can be a little painful sometimes, thinking you know one thing and then finding out you didn't know anything.
Well, and that happens with law. Like the U.S. legal system, the first time I encountered the U.S. legal system in court, more than 10 years ago now, thankfully, I thought I have nothing to worry about because I was right. I did the right thing. It's all good. I followed the law. And this was civil litigation. And it's like, none of that matters. The attorneys sat me down and they're like, none of that matters. It doesn't matter who's right or wrong. It just matters who has a better attorney or who has a better interpretation of the law. And that realization, if you're still living in the glass house of like fair and equal society, and then you realize like law is super fluid and
it's a little more flexible.
Yeah, I'd say it's like gymnastics flexible. I mean, and look, at the end of the day, do I still think more right people win than wrong people, or more good people than bad people, if you want to just break it into really simple terms? Yes, I do.
Right.
But I also think that like it's crazy how flexible it is, because things that are super clear cut, like a location date, like the day you locate a mining claim is solid, infallible, and super important. And I've had it made to me that in an elaborate case that's flexible. And you could just say, oh, I did it around this time or around this time. It's like mind blown. Like you add that kind of flexibility. Like, did you do this on this day? Well, I did it around that day, and that's fine. That flies in a court of law. It's like crazy to me.
Right. To be clear, that was settled, and there's no precedent that says your location date is flexible.
Right, but I had.
Just want to make that clear.
I had an expert who was hired to argue the case that location dates were flexible.
Right, and that was tough.
Yeah, because it's like, well, if that's the core component. Like, look, you messed up the paperwork, you wrote it wrong, your map's messed up. But if you actually go out and pound the post in the ground with basic information on it at this day and this time, pretty much everything else is amendable. But if you can actually amend the time and date that you did a thing,
right,
that's just crazy to me. And that was like that law disillusionment. So it's been kind of amusing and sad over the last couple of weeks to watch you go through that same process. Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming for our legalese of mining claims.
It was probably a little technical, but I hope there's some good nuggets in there. And I'd like to leave on a funny story.
Okay,
Do you have
that
a funny
sounds
story?
better. Oh, I thought you had one.
No, I'm putting you on the spot for a funny story.
Funny story?
I've thrown some softer questions at you, and you've quickly spun them to be super technical. So I'm just saying, you got a funny story.
My job is technical.
It is technical.
That's all I do.
Which makes you an interesting choice in a podcast guest.
Right?
Thanks for watching, and I hope you got something out of it. We busted 5 myths about mining claims. We talked about ClaimGuard, which is our claim renewal program. And most importantly, whether you sign up for ClaimGuard or not, make sure you renew your mining claims before September 1. And don't just file with the BLM. You need to file
Your notice of intent to hold.
with
The county
in which
the claim resides.
you got it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.